You know that feeling of checking your phone every few minutes, wondering when they will text back, that pit in your stomach when you don't know where you stand, the endless analysis of what their delayed response might mean? If waiting feels both unbearable and strangely familiar, you're not alone. Hey everyone, welcome back to Redo Love. Today we're diving into something I see in my coaching practice every single day. It's the complex relationship between waiting, attachment, and your nervous system. And today I'm going to explain exactly why this happens, what's happening in your body, and most importantly, how to break free from the waiting room of love. Because here's the truth, your pattern of waiting, it's not random. It's a direct result of how your nervous system was programmed in childhood. And what feels like patience might actually be a trauma response. Let's break down the neuroscience of waiting and why it feels so painfully comfortable. Think back to your earliest childhood experiences. As children, we're completely dependent on our caregivers, not just for physical survival, but the emotional connection. When a child calls out and no one comes immediately or consistently, something profound happens in their developing brain. They learn to wait. They learn that love and connection exist in the spaces of not yet, honey, or maybe later, maybe later. Sound familiar? Maybe your parent was physically present but emotionally unavailable. Maybe they were inconsistent, sometimes responsive, sometimes not, or perhaps they were overwhelmed, telling you, just a minute, sweetie, that stretched into hours. Whatever the case, your brain had to make sense of this, and it came to a crucial conclusion. Waiting is how you earn love. This might sound simple, but the neurological impact is profound. Your brain literally wired itself around this understanding, creating neural pathways that associated love with uncertainty, delayed gratification, the emotional roller coaster of anticipation. And here's where it gets interesting. This wiring happened before you had conscious memory, before you could rationalize or intellectualize the experience. It happened at the level of your nervous system. When we talk about attachment styles, we're actually talking about how your nervous system learned to seek safety and connection. Your attachment style isn't a personality trait, it's a survival strategy. For those with anxious attachment, the nervous system learned that danger comes in the form of abandonment or inconsistency. And your brain developed specific neural pathways to help you survive this perceived threat. Here's what happens neurologically. When you're waiting for a response from someone you're attached to, your amygdala, the brain's threat detection center, goes on high alert. It's scanning for signs of rejection or abandonment. This triggers your hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, or the HPA axis. Releasing cortisol, your primary stress hormone, your nervous system shifts into sympathetic dominance, what we commonly call fight or flight. But that's not even the fascinating part. For someone with anxious attachment, this state of hypervigilance feels normal. Your brain has been practicing it forever. And this creates a paradox consciously. Waiting feels terrible. Cortisol is elevated, your heart rate is increased, and you feel anxious. But subconsciously, this state is deeply familiar. Your nervous system recognizes this pattern and thinks, yes, this is love. Waiting isn't just neurological, it's also hormonal, and this explains why the waiting game can feel almost addictive. When you're waiting for a text back and it finally comes, your brain releases dopamine, the neurotransmitter associated with pleasure and reward. This creates a powerful reinforcement loop. Think about it like a slot machine. The unpredictable nature of when you'll get a response creates what psychologists call intermittent reinforcement, the most addictive form of reinforcement. That's why slot machines are so popular. This dopamine hit is even stronger because it follows a period of cortisol elevation. The contrast between stress and relief creates a more intense pleasure response. Your brain also releases oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone, when the connection is finally restored. This strengthens your attachment to the very person who kept you waiting in the first place. So you end up in this cycle, wait in a state of stress and hypervigilance, cortisol is flowing through your body, experience relief when they respond, dopamine, you get that reward, and then feel bonded through the emotional contrast, oxytocin. Rinse and repeat. Your adult mind might hate this cycle, but your nervous system and hormonal system recognize it as the familiar dance of love and connection. So, how does this childhood pattern manifest in adult relationships? You find yourself drawn to partners who recreate this familiar pattern, not because you want the pain, but because your nervous system recognizes the rhythm. You might even find yourself avoiding secure, consistent partners because they don't activate this neurochemical pattern. They don't feel exciting enough. What you're really feeling is the absence of that cortisol dopamine cycle. In your relationships, you become hyper-attuned to signs of potential abandonment. The time between texts, subtle changes in tone shifts and availability. Your threat detection system is constantly scanning for evidence that you'll be left waiting again. And ironically, this hypervigilance can create the dynamic you fear. You see, you might over-accommodate to prevent abandonment, become anxious when responses are delayed, feel an overwhelming need to check in, struggle with setting boundaries for fear of rejection, and beneath it all is that child who learned that love means waiting and waiting means love. But how do you break the pattern, right? Breaking free from the waiting pattern requires more than just conscious awareness. You need to actively rewire your nervous system. And here's some ways that you can start. First, you have to recognize the pattern, obviously. Notice when you're in the waiting room of love. Name it. This is my nervous system recreating a familiar pattern. Feel those sensations. Where do you feel it in your body? The chest tightness, the stomach knots. This helps move the experience from unconscious to conscious. Then interrupt the cycle. When you notice yourself waiting, actively engage in your parasympathetic nervous system through deep breathing, movement, or connection with someone safe. Create mini boundaries. Start small. Put your phone away for an hour. Let a text sit for 30 minutes before responding. This helps your nervous system learn that separation is not dangerous. And seek secure connections. Surround yourself with people who are consistent and responsive. This gives your nervous system new data about what relationships can feel like. Remember, this work happens at the level of your nervous system, not just your thoughts. Cognitive understanding is just the beginning. True healing comes through repeated experiences that show your nervous system a new way of connecting. The child in you learned to wait because that's what they had to do to survive. But the adult in you can choose different patterns, create different connections, and find love that doesn't keep you waiting. And if you're ready to break free from the waiting pattern, check out my free masterclass below and let's work on it. Thank you for watching, and remember, you never need permission to stop waiting.